Hey, it's Jason with TradingReviewers.com, and today we're joined by Jake, one of the founding members of TrendSpider. TrendSpider is a highly advanced cloud-based technical analysis platform that combines beautiful charting, instant backtesting, AI, and time-saving automation, alerts, and much more. You can take advantage of a special free trial offer and check the software out for yourself by clicking the link in the description below. We asked Jake to come on and give us a walkthrough of the platform and explain some of the software's key features and functionality. So without further ado, welcome, Jake.
Thank you so much for having me. So as you mentioned, I'm one of the founding members of TrendSpider. I work mostly on the partner development and management side of things, working with new partners, business development, and then as well as some product integration as well, kind of helping with the product ideas. So what I want to do is just go over a little bit about the product, kind of explain what the true, value add is at TrendSpider and how it is different from a lot of other platforms out there. So at the very base, as you can see here, everything is turned off. Anything that is turned on is going to have this green toggle. So everything is turned off right now. And I'm going to start with the trends button. And this is the first layer to the platform. So the first layer is really about automating some of the processes of technical analysis. And that's really where the product started, was automating how trend lines are drawn. We just wanted to see if there was a way to automate those lines without having to go through 50 different charts and draw thousands of different lines. If you're really a hardcore chartist, you can have the system assist you, not replace what you're doing by hand. So when I click the trends button here, you'll see all of these different trends come up. And these trends are a function of two different things. They're a function of whatever preferences you're using under the preferences tab here. So right now I'm using the enhanced analysis type. I'm having the system connect the wicks to the wicks, and I'm having the system respect gaps. So not drawing any lines through gaps in price. So if I wanted to change that, I would do that here. For now, I'm just gonna keep these setting sets. And the second function of these lines are when the system last took the data. So the last time that the system actually looked at the data and drew lines was on November 1st. So it's been quite some time since the system has actually drawn an updated kind of line setup, if you will. All of these different lines kind of have a different formula on the back end. And so as we update the chart, these lines will change based on how they're kind of coded in on the back end. So when I update this, refresh and lock, you'll see all of the most recent price action is now kind of taken into account. And you'll see we have quite a few different lines here. And it looks a little noisy, but that's the reason, or that's kind of the point, right? Everybody's going to have a different view of this. Some people may capture this line here, and maybe this line here. I turn the trends off, and you quickly have these lines locked in without having to think of where to draw these lines. The system is just highlighting these specific areas that may be of interest to you based on the particular settings you're using. So you just turn off the trends, you double click the lines that you want to lock in, and then you go on to the next part of your process. So the point here is everybody's going to have a different view. Someone may be locking in maybe these two lines instead, and that's going to be a little slightly different kind of resistance area as well as support. So it really depends on how you view the chart, and we want to give people the ability to get a secondary perspective very quickly. The nice thing about this as well, let's say that you lock in the setup that you're looking for, you can then create an alert on each side of the, in this case, ascending wedge. So let's say that you wanted to be alerted anytime the price broke through this particular line or even touched it. You can choose your trigger as breakthrough or touch, and then you can define the margin of error around this line. So rather than the price action just hitting this exact resistance line, you can increase or decrease where the alert is going to fire within. So a lot of the time, price action doesn't get exactly to that line, and sometimes you want a little bit of margin of error. Notice how this candle here did not get exactly to that line, but if we had some sensitivity here, we would have been able to capture that and would have been alerted when the price got there. The next thing about the alerts, which is important, especially if you're intraday trading, the confirmation candle. Right now, you would need to wait for the daily candle to close here However, if you move this down to 5 minutes, whenever the 5-minute candle closes in this area, that's when you'll be alerted. So it's going to be a lot quicker, and you're going to be able to actually make that trade whenever the short-term price action hits anywhere there, instead of waiting for the end of day where the move may have already been made. Next step is just to name it, resistance above. In this case, this is an example on a trend line. Let's remove this and kind of clear the chart here, and we'll do the next feature that can be automated on the platform. And as I mentioned, it's not there to be automated to replace, it's there to be a secondary perspective. When I click on Autofib, you'll see that the system automatically is going to pick up this measured move here that it finds most relevant based on the preferences of the trends. So for example, if I change this from wick to body, this is actually going to change how this is drawn, and you'll see now this measured move is being connected by the bodies rather than the wicks. So this is something that's really useful, not only to be a secondary perspective, but also to help people kind of realize what the measured move is they should be looking at. This is flexible, so it's not necessarily this is the only measured move it's finding. You can also change the trends preference, let's say, to original, which is looking usually at longer term periods of time. And you'll see here how we're actually kind of finding a different measured move here. And let me change this to wick. And you'll see that we really kind of caught almost perfectly this 1.618 resistance from this measured move here. And this was, I didn't even really think of this measured move when it first showed me that. And then this became my target for quite some time when we were moving through the 302, 303 area. So just like the trend line, you can go and create an alert at this line. You can choose a breakthrough, a touch, or a 2-candle combination, which is when it touches and then pulls back, which is a bounce. And then you can go about, setting whatever sensitivity you want, and the rest down here, as I mentioned before. You can choose your expiration. You can choose the number of times you want this to trigger. So if it only triggers once, that's when it expires. If you want it to trigger up to 10 times, it's going to trigger up to 10 times before it actually expires again. So it's a very robust alert system. It can be used on trend lines, Fibonacci levels. I'll show an example here with moving averages as well. Let's just go ahead and add maybe the Bollinger Bands here. So I'll go here. Where is it? Oh, I'm not going to use the Bollinger Bands because I made them really light. Actually, I will. Just change this in the properties real quick. So here we've got the Bollinger Bands. Let me get the mid stroke here. Make this dark. And so what you can do here, we're just looking at the Bollinger Bands in this case, but you can actually, let's say you wanted to be alerted when the next time price hit the Bollinger Band here, do the same thing, create an alert. And so instead of you having to wait until, this hits and then you have to watch the chart constantly, the system's able to watch these areas for you, and not just this exact line. As I mentioned, the margin of error, that sensitivity is really important as well. There's a couple times here where we touched almost to the band, but we didn't get exactly in it. Using sensitivity would have captured that, and you would have captured a slight pullback before the next leg up to test the actual band there. The nice thing about the system as well, this is just the daily Bollinger Band. But let's say that you want to see how the daily price action is interacting with maybe the weekly Bollinger Band. What you can do is you can actually go to MTFA here, go to daily versus, and then you can choose weekly or monthly. Let's just do weekly here. And you'll see that I can actually overlay the weekly Bollinger Bands onto the daily price action. So you can see how this daily price action is interacting with this longer term level. Another thing, let's say you wanted to go down to the weekly and you wanted to see how the weekly is interacting with the monthly band, same type of thing. So this is a really interesting type of setup where you can easily kind of make the chart consolidated without having to have a ton of different split screens. You can have all of the important stuff right there. this daily price action respected these areas perfectly almost here. I mean, and so that's why it's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen here, because every time we've tested this area since we bottomed out in December 2018, we've generally had a decent pullback. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is a dead cat bounce or, whatever today's price action is. We'll just have to see what happens. But definitely, something I would do is create another alert on this trend line, or upper band, and see if we retest that area and kind of go from there. So that's how you can use a longer term moving average or Bollinger Band, or you could even use this on lower indicators. So for example here, I'm just going to turn off the Bollinger Bands and maybe turn on the monthly percent range. So the percent range is just a momentum oscillator, but the point is, this is actually the weekly indicator overlaid with that daily price action. So it's not only the upper indicator you can do that with, such as the Bollingers or the moving averages, it's also the lower indicators like your momentum oscillators and MACDs, that type of thing. The next thing that I wanted to point out is the ability to, let's say, the reason I brought up lower indicators is, let's say that you want to create a set of conditions. A lot of people like to look for MACD cross associated with maybe the RSI breaking above a level. Most of the time when you do that, though, you actually have to go in and manually code that in, whether it's through a charting platform specific language, or like Python or something, a different type of coding language. That's great, but a lot of people don't necessarily know how to code. So what you can do on TrendSpider, let's just do the MACD and the RSI here. Let's say that I want to know anytime the RSI breaks down below 40, and I want to know when the MACD fast crosses down below, let's say 1, to show that momentum starting to pick up. All I would do is go to create alert here, multi-factor alert. I can name it potential breakdown here. I can go to an expiration of up to 45 days. Depending on whatever plan you have, that's going to vary. Let's just have this expire in 30 days, and it's triggered one time. So the conditions that we're going to put in is simply the RSI breaking down below 40. So we have a visual interface here that we just go to add parameter, condition. This is the daily indicator, and we're looking for that RSI. So we scroll down to RSI 10, and we define what that is doing. And what we said was it was crossing down through the constant level of 40. The next condition that we wanted to track was when the daily, so we go to same thing, daily indicator, and that's the MACD fast that we're looking at here. And we're looking for that to cross down through the constant level of 1. So what we're really doing here is almost creating a visual algorithm without actually having to code anything in. You're just setting your set of rules, and you're letting the system look for those conditions to be met. And when all of them are met, you're alerted. Now, let's say that you want to set all of these conditions, but you only want to know when any of them occur. You can change this easily from all of the following down to any of the following. So whenever the MACD crosses below 1 or the RSI crosses below 40, you'll be alerted when either one of those occur. You create alert. You can then go to tools and alert list and track that alert here. And anytime any of those conditions have been met, you can track that right here in this little box by clicking the magnifying glass. So that is how you can really utilize the alerts. What's really nice here, let's go back and just edit it. I can actually test this strategy and see what the return is before or after I've made the alert. So in this case, we'll go and test this strategy as an entry. This would probably be an entry for a short position. And so you can go in and say, our entry condition is all of the following in this case. RSI breaks down below 40, MACD fast is below 1, and then we want to know what's the return after 15 candles. You can go then and test that out. And in this case, we can see over 7 positions analyzed over about 2,000 candles. The mean trade return is actually 1.42%. So you would think it's bearish, but it's actually bullish over 15 days after that signal has happened. So you can see on the chart anytime that has happened, and you can see a lot of the time you're really nearing a bottom whenever that occurs. And so without me having to go through and manually backtest that, the system is doing that for me very quickly. I can even change this to, let's say, 7,000 candles. And then I can see that, the mean trade return and all of my statistics are going to change as well. Notice the mean trade return drops a little bit, and that's likely because we've now gone over 13 positions over 27 years of data, and it's kind of smoothing that mean out a little bit. So that is how you can use the backtester. That's how you can use the multi-factor alerts in conjunction with the backtester. And it's something that really makes your life a lot easier as a trader, because you don't have to go back and look for every single condition, every single little tick of the indicator. Sometimes it's really hard to see if the indicator, did it cross one, did it not cross one. So the system does all that hard work for you. Save it as a template. Let's say I want to save it as, breakdown on daily, or whatever I want it to be. Some people use different inputs for different time frames, so maybe I want to just name this the breakdown on the daily. And then go in and save it, and then it's saved in my templates manager, which you can get to by clicking tools and go to templates manager here and get all of the ones you've created, but also ones that we've already created on the back end as well, that you can mess around with and test out, and if you like, use yourself. So all of these things are things that everyone's responsible for. This isn't like go use a template and all of a sudden it tests good and you go all in. Everyone's got to do all of their own research, their own due diligence. This is really just a tool to help with a lot of that research, especially on the technical side. The last thing that I wanted to go over before I introduce probably the most unique thing on the platform, which is our raindrop charts, I want to go over our heat map and our pattern recognition. So I turned on the pattern recognition right at the beginning of this video, and you can see here, whenever I turn that on, you'll see these hanging man candles are then highlighted on the chart. You can go and choose from up to over 70, I think over 100 patterns at this point, and you can then have the system look for those. In this case, I've already got the hammer on there. Let's say that you want to maybe look for an advanced block. You can go in, apply that, and anytime there's an advanced block, you'll see that here on the platform, and then you can go into the strategy tester and actually test that out, just like you would any other condition or indicator. So that is something that is really useful, especially when you don't want to have to go through and search every single little pattern out there over X amount of time. You just have the system do it for you. The next thing is the heat maps. So the heat map is something that is proprietary to TrendSpider, but it's not like a black box. We have all of the documentation on how we find these areas, but we're really just looking for areas where there's a bunch of high and lows within a very specific set of kind of a pivot area or something like that. And then it extends that line over, or that zone over. And the more recent the action is, the darker it's going to be. So notice this one is all the way back here. And that's why it's so light, because it's kind of decaying over time. And so it's not as important as, let's say, this area here, which is darker below. So that is, a way you can kind of look for areas of support and resistance quickly. But we also have something called the anchored volume by price. So if anyone's familiar that's listening to this video with the anchored VWAP, the ability to anchor from a specific point, you can actually do that with the volume by price as well. So I want to go over a quick example of GDX here, and we are on the weekly chart right now, and you can see here when I turn on volume by price under indicators, you have a couple things that show up. You've got this vertical line that can be moved right or left, and this is the anchoring part of the feature, where I can actually move this and I can say, okay, I want to know what the volume by price or the volume profile looks from May 20th, rather than saying, just at any point. It's really hard to just say what's the volume by price over the last year. Sometimes you only want the volume by price from a specific point, such as a pivot where, or a breakout point, right? Where we kind of were pulling back after a nice move up, and then we found a bottom and made our next move up. And you can see since May 20th, a lot of this volume has aggregated at this price level rather than this volume kind of at this level when we first took off. So this is almost creating a base for the next leg up in gold. And so as you move this to the right and the left, you can see where that volume is kind of holding over time. So in this case, you can see since September 10th of 2018, a lot of that volume was holding in this price range. But as time went by, price started to then accumulate at the top of this range, and you can kind of see how that volume is being distributed over time. So that's something that's really unique to the platform and something I'd really recommend checking out. I use it a ton, and it's been very useful to me, especially when making different trades in the market, looking for these stair-stepping type of setups. The next thing that I want to go over, and this is probably the last thing that I think I have to show, is the Raindrop Chart. So the Raindrop Chart is something that is completely unique to TrendSpider, and it is a volume-based chart. So rather than your typical bar chart, and let me just remove this back part of the candle, you'll see that this looks pretty similar to a bar chart, right? You've got the left side, which is going to be your open. You've got the right side, which is going to be your close. So whenever the candle is green, we know that the close is higher than the open. Now, instead of the open being here and the close being here, this is actually the volume weighted average price for the first half of the period. And this is the volume weighted average price for the second half of the period. So we're actually taking into account more of the economics of price rather than just the open and the close. And the second layer to the candle is actually the volume profile overlaid on this candle. So like any other candle, you've got the high of the day here, you've got the low of the day here, and in between this range, you can see where the volume profile is on each side. So on the left-hand side, you can see all of this volume really was aggregating near the lower half of the day's range during the first half of the period. And then you can see how that volume is then flipping over into the second half of the period, and some of that volume is actually creating new highs in price. And we know this because this is flat on the left. So we know there's no volume here during the first half of the period. We know that this price action was created by volume during the second half of the period, and this gives you an idea of how volume is flowing. So one of my favorite examples that I'm going to end with for raindrops, after I explain, of course, what the blue raindrop is on IWM. But on GDX, you'll see that these blue raindrops happen pretty often. Not a ton, but they do happen maybe more often than other stocks or ETFs that you'd be looking at. But the blue raindrop is when your volume weighted average price for the first and the second half of the period are exactly equal. So you can see here, it looks like a cross, It's pretty much a doji. And then you've got your volume profile over here, which sometimes isn't always going to look, as pretty or as even, if you will. These blue raindrops, a lot of the time, can be signals for reversal points or a continuation of the trend. So notice here, we've got a nice gap up. We've got a huge move up. We've got a blue raindrop form. And then you've got your next leg up. You've got some consolidation here, some accumulation, and kind of, just redistributing some of the shares for the next leg. You've got your blue raindrop, and then you've got your next leg up. And so sometimes these can just be signals of, a continuation of the trend, but a lot of the time they can also be a signal of a reversal. But my favorite example is showing IWM showing a regular raindrop versus just a simple candle. I'm just going to do a hollow candle here. And what you'll see is, you'll see that these lines here are, let me just remove a couple of these. You'll see this line is resistance, especially for this candle on October 25th. So as you can see here, when I split the screen, this candle right here and this candle right here are the exact same. They're just on two different types of charts. So what you'll see here is, on the raindrop on the 25th, you'll see a lot of the volume for this day was aggregating above the resistance line. During the regular candle examination of the price action, you can see only the wick is pointing through this resistance. You don't get any information about the buyers and sellers in this area. And we know that demand was coming in here because this is a kind of a big blob of volume. So we know that there were sellers here, but we also know that there were buyers absorbing that volume that was being sold off. So it's like a sponge. If you've got a dry sponge and you are pouring water on it, that sponge is going to absorb that water before leaking out, and you're going to have a sponge that's nice and heavy and kind of absorbed with water. If you pour water on a sponge that's already absorbed with water, that water is going to run down, and we would know that there's no demand absorbing the supply because this volume would have been allocated way down in this range. But we know there were buyers here absorbing any selling that was going on above this line, and then you had a nice continuation up for 2 days. So it's a really good way to visualize where that volume is flowing around support and resistance areas, and it's just a really great tool to use in your toolbox with other things out there. I think that's about it on my end, and if there's anything I missed, please remind me, but I think that's about it.
Jake, thank you so much for taking the time to provide us with an overview of the TrendSpider software. We're really impressed with just how powerful this platform is, and we're looking forward to following the program's development going forward. So that's it for today. Just remember that there's a free trial being offered at the moment, which will allow you to check the platform out for yourself. Just click the link in the video description below for instant access. Happy trading, everyone.